following program is rated TVMA. This program contains topics and viewpoints from metaphysical professionals. Topics, conversations, insights, and experiences are meant for a mature adult audience and may not be suitable for younger viewers. All insights, experiences, and conversations contained in this show are meant as informational. Always consult either legal or medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Terra Turas. We are here this evening. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about something that really began way back in ancient times. And it is not something that you find typical in most readers or in most cases anymore. And tonight we're going to be talking about the ancient art of divination by seashells. And we're going to be doing this by this young lady here on the left-hand side. Her name is Heather. She's part of our panel. My name is Michael. I'm here in the middle. And, of course, we have Reverend Pat Beers on the right-hand side. I'm glad everybody could join us. Thanks for being here tonight, ladies.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
How are you ladies doing this evening? Good?
Great.
Awesome.
Great.
I know Heather said in the pre-show that she was kind of nervous about things. Don't worry about it. You're going to do just fine. So, Heather, I'm going to turn this right over to you. I'm going to ask a ton of questions as we go along, and I'm sure Pat's going to be asking a couple of things as we go along, too. But again, tonight's talking about divination with seashells, and then you've got a couple other things that I know you're going to talk. See, there's that mug. Let me see your mug. Give it up.
I have an obsession with coffee cups. I'm not even going to lie. Like, I have to have it says namaste in my bed. I don't know why.
Shelley?
I do have an obsession with coffee cups. I'm very picky. I have a very select collection.
Shelley talked about your coffee cups, and I was like, really? So the minute I see you with that mug, I'm like, let's see it. Okay. Oh, you. I'll listen for a minute. I'll clamp up.
Okay. So, well, I know I've said it before, but I haven't been living awakened for almost 3 years now. So I was totally unaware of my abilities. And I know, looking back now, I definitely had psychic dreams when I was a kid, and it was very intuitive, but I think we're just really taught to not use that part of us. We're kind of taught in the opposite direction, use your head, think, not feel. What does it feel like when you have this thought, So I wasn't really taught. Well, anyways, looking back, I've always had these abilities. I just wasn't aware of them. So I became awakened and I started meditating, and it's been a really amazing journey. But once I knew that I could speak to people on the other side, it just totally brought a whole new a paradigm shift in my life, really. And from the very beginning, when I started meditating, I just kind of created this place in my mind to go, and it felt safe. And it's, like a little meadow in the middle of the forest, and my guides come to me and my angels. And it's a very amazing experience. Well, they always gave me seashells, always with the seashells. I'm like, what does this mean? Why do you keep giving me seashells? I remember one specifically, I had archangels, and they had like these big sleeves, and they were just like pouring seashells out of their sleeves. And I'm like, okay, I'll get some seashells. So I got some seashells, and I still had no idea what to do with them. I was really just starting to read for other people, and to really feel connected with spirit and to trust what was coming through. And I just had all these seashells everywhere. And I was already into crystals big by then. It was actively using my crystals for different things, putting them everywhere in my bra and my pockets, everywhere in my house.
You sound like Pat.
I know I'm not the only one, right?
It's true.
So the meditations continued, and I always had seashells. And just one time it came through that I was supposed to write down what they had to say. And I was like, okay. So I didn't know what to do. So I got in the bathtub with them. I just figured water, emotions, seashells, well, I'm going to connect with them. And I had my piece of paper and my pen, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And what I had done is I had posted like on Facebook, I took a few pictures of seashells, and I took pictures of them. And I was like, all right, guys, like we're going to get some messages from some seashells. And I had no idea. I had no idea what was going to come of it. And I just got in that bathtub, and I just wrote. And the messages that came through were so clear and so beautiful. And I've just always been connected with the energy of the ocean, very connected with the mermaids and the dolphins, the fae also, but just a lot of water. It helps us heal our emotions. Water, you think of the moon and the emotions, right? Do you guys do any like moon work, Pat? I feel like you might be. Yeah. So it's just, where was I at? Sorry. I got a little distracted. So I wrote down these messages from the seashells, and I've just been doing it ever since. Last summer, I went to the Gypsy Festival, Gypsy Goddess Festival. It was so much fun. And I was just like, I have to bring the seashells, I have to bring them. So I brought my oracle cards, I brought my seashells, and I would, pull a few cards, and then I would just let them pick from I'd have my whole big basket, and I'd be like, okay, what resonates with you? And they'd pick their seashells, and I kid you not, every single time the seashell and the card went hand in hand. I mean, it was amazing. And I would read the shells first and then flip over the cards, and wow, amazing.
I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First, I'm
Please.
going to stop and say, people in the chat room, I'm glad that you joined us this evening. The people that are listening on podcast, we're looking forward to hearing from you as well as time goes through. But Shelley, Kathy, Kimberly, Jared, I know there's a couple other people that are in there. They just haven't made their way through yet. Now, when you read shells, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? And how do you get information out of them?
Well, I mean, everything. I want to say, I'm so glad you asked that, Michael. So everything has a vibration, right? Everything is energy. That's how it was explained to me before I had my awakening. A dear friend of mine, she was like, I was Christian. I was very into my church, and, I just was kind of leery of the whole spirituality thing. And she was to people like me. And she was like, everything is energy. The desk you're sitting at is energy. Everything is protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, oh, she's right. This isn't like hokey pokey, whatever. Like everything is energy. It makes sense. So our crystals that we use carry a vibration. Everything has a unique vibration. It moves at its own speed, so to say. And I have to show you this show because so I was gonna talk on this tonight, right? And don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of blue. I was thinking about it this afternoon. I was like, what am I gonna say? And I immediately saw this seashell in my head, and I was like, oh, and it was just like downloading information into me, and I was like, oh, all I had to do was think about the shell, about my shells, and it showed me which one, and it like gave me a message, all right, boom, 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 I went home tonight, pulled my shells from the shelf, and put my hand on this one first thing, and I was like, oh, what a nice little story, how divine that, it was speaking to me all day. So it's just vibrations. I usually feel it. Sometimes I close my eyes and just feel it. Sometimes the color of it is significant. Sometimes the shape of it is significant. So it's really an all senses kind of thing. Of how I read them, and it's just like giving any other reading. You're just allowing information to come through that they need to hear. And I know that I'm very much supposed to use my skills to help people deal with emotions because I have a very strong desire to help people heal naturally and to live healthier lives. And I believe that every illness we have, everything comes down to emotions. So we are emotional beings. Everything in us at one point started as an emotion, right? We carry grief in our lungs. And when we smoke, we're suppressing grief. It tells the heart, sends a false signal to your heart to sense joy. So it's telling you, it's suppressing your grief and giving you that sense of joy all at the same time. So people who quit smoking, sometimes they have, go through really emotional times, depression, crying a lot, because they're finally releasing all of that grief that they've suppressed.
Do you find at any point in time that there is a difference from where the shell originated from or where you found it, or does that change? A specific would be freshwater versus saltwater, like Lake Erie versus Atlantic Ocean.
Right. I mean, I guess I haven't noticed anything specifically because I don't really even know where most of mine came from. I just know they came to me because they're for me. So, yeah, I guess I haven't really noticed. I mean, every shell, when I use them at shows and stuff, it's funny that different people will often there'll be one or two shells that people will be picking all day. And
really,
they do not, yeah, it's really cool to see, but they don't share the same messages for different people. Sometimes there are messages that are very similar, but I mean, I could have two clients back to back pick the same shell and it's telling me something completely different. So that always is very intriguing to me as well.
Go ahead, Pat. You look like you had a question on your mind.
I did, because it's so funny. You're doing psychometry with shells, but like you said, it's all energy. And isn't it strange how, like, I use the Dane cards, and I don't touch them until the end. I just hand them to you, and I say, please pull me out 3. And they go, how did you do that? We're not doing it. I think it's spirit, and I love it that you're comfortable with the shells. And I think shells represent nature to me, and they're just so beautiful, and no two are alike. And that's the thing that makes them so fascinating. And I wondered how you got started doing it. Thank you for telling us about the angels. I love that.
For me, it was kind of like they were getting me to open the door further to my abilities. You know, it's not something that I do every day, but it is something that they were really urging me on from the beginning. Like, you need to know that you can do this. And like I was saying, it's all vibrations. It's like you said, I'm connected with the shells. They speak to me. I love to work with them. But it is psychometry. I mean, you can read anything. Everything has a vibration. The walls carry vibrations. I mean, you can walk into a house and be like, oh, you know, I mean, you walk into a room and somebody just fought.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel those things. It's all energy. It's all the same thing. And I know you guys do it too. Reading the energy, reading the psychometry, or reading objects, and it's fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
When you have 2 or more shells in your hand, do you, and this is going to sound strange, except maybe to some people it will begin to make sense, do you ever have them, for lack of better words, do you ever have them fighting for your attention? Like, me first, me first.
Yes, yes, that's funny. It's kind of like similar to me when I'm shuffling and the cards like jump out of the deck and you're like, okay. It's the same thing, you know, and there are some that they vibrate so high and that they're just, you have to pick that one up first. You know what I mean? It's just like the attraction is so strong. But yeah, they do. That's funny that you said that. I had a lady one time at one of my shows say, your seashells are singing. They were just on a bowl on the table. I'm like, I know. Isn't it amazing?
It is one of the things with crystals or anything else that carries any kind of energy. When they finally find someone that can hear them or goes, I made a connection, it's like a flock of seagulls going, mine, 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 mine. They all want attention all at the same time. Pat Laura she had to take off. She said to apologize, but she'll catch the show here later on. And Melody Loving is here with us this evening. It's good to see you, Melody. But it's ironic because I did not know, I've never read with any kind of divination tool that is really hardcore Mother Nature, so to speak. And so I did not know, well, crystals, hardcore Mother Nature, of course. But I've never done anything with seashells or any kind of work with them, so I didn't know if they acted the same or not.
Yeah, they speak to you. I mean, they speak to who they're for, just like anything else that carries that special vibration that you just know it's for you, you know.
Heather, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What month is your birthday?
December.
Okay. Because I wondered where Cancer was, because Cancer to me is emotions and water. And
my moon is in Cancer.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm like, this got to be something. I know this much about astrology, but there was just something in there that I knew you had to be connecting to the water, because it's just like, oh.
Yeah. I know. I love it. Gosh, it's so much fun. I love connecting with them. And for me, like I said, how it kind of opened the door for other things. I was really, around the same time that I just finally sat down and connected with them, because they were like driving me crazy. They were like, hey, we're here. What are you doing? Like, come on. And I started grooming dogs around the same time, and I've always been very connected to animals. And I mean, when I was a kid, that's all I did was play with my dogs. They were my best friends. And I went to school to be a vet tech originally, and I did that for I don't know how many years. I was a veterinary technician. And so I had been a stay-at-home mom for years, and I get this dog grooming job. So I'm a dog grooming apprentice, and it is the itchiest job. But again, with the connecting and the communicating, because I knew more about energy and more about the vibrations of things. And I was like, how do you communicate with the dog? Like, I knew that I was there to open that door, to learn how to communicate with the animals. And I did, and I can. And it's a really just crazy thing. I had this dog, I'm bathing this dog, and I'm like, the first time I really tried to connect, I'm like seeing there's something about they like the rainbow spectrum. So when you connect with them, you just like think of the, rainbow colors of the rainbow. And I was connecting with this dog, and I had this really loud girly music on. And this dog was like, I like Bon Jovi. And I was
Out of
I go
nowhere.
out and I tell my boss, I'm like, I swear to you, this dog just told me he likes Bon Jovi. And she's open enough, but she just kind of looks at me and she's like, we need to ask the owner if he listens to Bon Jovi.
They listen to a lot of Bon Jovi. You were showing earlier that you had a bowl of shells.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they had to come because they love to be in the spotlight. I think that's the cool thing about seashells. And there are crystals that are the same way. But yeah, I have a whole bowl of them.
Okay.
They're beautiful. I have obviously way more than this, but I just, again, used my intuition, picked the ones that were speaking most to me.
Have you ever had, and I don't know the pronunciation, a large conch shell?
I do have one, yes.
Now,
I only have one.
This I ask simply because, and I think Pat would agree, different crystals, and I can only relate, again, because I've worked with crystals, but different crystals have age, a sense of age to them, if they're older or wiser or younger or playful or serious, or what does that conch shell bring across when you're working with it?
The conch shell is just a very low, like not low, like, you think of like low vibrations, negativity, but it's just a very strong, wise, old vibration that I get from it. It's just very like, I mean, I can almost like hear it in my head. I can almost hear the sound waves of it in my head. It's just very, I feel like people that, don't read seashells and don't know a lot about this, I feel like that would be a great shell for them to pick up, just because it might be slow enough that they could really feel it. Now, some of the really high vibrational ones, and I think one week we were talking about like amethyst, if you don't know anything about crystals and you go stand in front of a big amethyst, if you don't notice something, like, you might want to go to the doctor and get checked, because I mean, you almost get blown away by them. Or what's that one that's the meteorite?
Right away when I touch it, Moldavite.
Moldavite, yeah, that one. The first time I was near Moldavite, I was like walking by this table and I was like, what is that? I had to walk over. I was like 10 feet away. I had to go see what it was, because I was like, holy crap.
Do you notice that you mentioned the larger shell has a really low note to it?
Yeah.
Do the smaller ones
That's a good word. Thank you.
have a higher note? As in, do they have a squeaky voice the smaller they get?
Yeah, well, it's not even necessarily about size. I mean, because some of them are relative to their size, but like this one here, this is the one that was, this shell here vibrates at a very, what did you say? High note.
Mm-hmm.
It's very high pitched shell, but I have some other ones that are, medium size and like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's very smooth and very tightly wrapped. And that thing, like, super, super high singing.
When you've ever done a reading with somebody that you use the shells, and the person that you were reading for sat down and looked at you like, Big WTF. Were they, when it was done, did they just sit there more dumbfounded because of what you told them? I mean, how did that? Typically, you sit down, you've got crystals, you've got tarot cards, you have different divination meetings. You know, you're talking about something that goes way, way back, thousands of years. You know, it's one of the original divination tools. So, do these people walk away with a better appreciation, or do they just walk away going, "There's no effing way she could know that"? You know, how does that work?
You know, I think most people are surprised at how much truth that they speak and how deep of a healing they are kind of urging or opening your eyes to. Most people are surprised at how just kind of on point and how well they will coincide with the card that I pull for it. And I think that surprises me too. It keeps the magic alive. It keeps things interesting for me as a reader because it doesn't get old. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I knew that was going to be perfect, but come on, that was perfect, you know? So yeah, I think more times than not, people are surprised. And most of them, you know, I've had a few people that were like, I had no idea what that even meant. Like, you're going to seashell, you know, and I pull out my basket of seashells and I'm like, here you go. And they're like, okay, what is this?
All right, now I'm going to ask you another one. See, I told you I'd be full of them because there's a lot of things that I don't know. You also read either tarot, fairy, or oracle cards, yes?
I am not familiar with tarot. I have one deck of Medicine Woman tarot cards, but I use different oracle cards, yes. Okay. I have my mermaid cards, and my mermaid and dolphin cards are like my main two. They just, again, there's something with the ocean and the mermaids and the shells that I'm really connected with. Okay. My mermaid and dolphin cards got left behind at my show this summer. And it was like, I'm driving home and I knew it. I was like, okay, I haven't seen them, but I can feel like they're not here with me. And and then I got the sense of that they were okay, that whoever had them, they were safe. And then I got home and my friend had texted me while I was driving. She was like, hey, I have your cards and they're safe. And I was like, I knew they weren't with me. There was just this connection that I had to them.
Here's a question. Let's take one of your mermaid cards and a shell. Talk to me about the difference between the two.
Gosh, I mean, just different vibrations. I get messages either way. It's just a tool. Mm-hmm. So when I start a reading, I will typically tell people like, look, I know you have questions and we will get to them. But first I have to let spirit, whatever needs to come out needs to be said, because otherwise we're not going to be able to address the questions that you want as clearly, because things need to come out sometimes, you know, and it's not always what they think they want to know. So that's how I usually start it. I just kind of, whatever needs to come through. And then I will draw the cards and I will lay them flat and then I'll let them pick the seashells. And I do the seashells first, again, I guess because they're so connected with nature and they're so grounding and they just feel so pure. So I feel like they're primary, whereas the cards in that case are just secondary. You know what I mean?
Okay. Would you classify the shells more, you say grounding, does that mean that your cards are more of an air nature, like a spiritual side, to where...
I guess I never thought of it, but yeah, that sounds...
I'm trying to put it in terms that my guy brain will think. It's like sitting in a Ford F-150 in one and sitting my butt in a Ferrari in the other. Two totally different feelings, yet it's a vehicle going down the road. You know, it's got 4 tires, an engine, you put gas in and it goes like hell. Fine. But there's a different feeling between both of them. How they drive, how they feel, how they respond, how they interact, things like that.
Well, I think that the seashells connect themselves with the cards so well. It's like their energies just are so cohesive. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it sounds silly, but I almost feel like they speak to one another. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's spirit, it's their guides that are, you know, guiding the whole situation. But I feel like they communicate with one another, and I guess that's why I usually use my mermaid or my mermaid and dolphin cards with the seashells, just because we're all so connected. I want to be like, we're like this.
Can I ask you, when you were talking about your conch shell, I kept hearing grandpa. It's like the grandpa of the seashells. It took a long time to get that big. And then your little spiral one, I heard siren of the seas, squeaky voice. Do you know what I mean? Just, you know, always excitement.
Yes.
And it was just so weird. And it's like they just kept saying that to me. I said, okay, okay, okay. And are you surprised sometimes at what comes out of your mouth and your head's going, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. And you can't stop. I mean, and then they go, oh my. I didn't think anybody knew about that or something. It's just.
Yep.
It's just fun.
I'll be like, I don't know why I said it like that. It just came out that way.
But see, what you get from the shells and what I get from crystals, Michael probably gets very strongly from the crystals. I love it when you send someone, I say, go over there and see the folks with the crystals. And they'll go, why? I'll go, the crystals are going to pick you, and you're going to find out that the crystal that you're drawn to is the one you need. And they go, oh yeah. And they go, oh, you know, and there's a box of crystals. So how come you got to have that one? It's not just the one on top or the one on the, that particular one says, I'm yours. I'm going with you. I don't care what you think. So that's probably like your shells.
It's funny, Pat, when I've watched you do that often. Truly, we go to shows and Pat is like, you know, right there going, you got to go get this, you got to go get that. And people look at her like, all right, lady, you're wigging out, you're nuts. And they come back and they're holding this, and this wave of serenity has hit them. And there were a couple times people asked me, and I found the best answer. They said, now why, just like Pat said, why this particular crystal? Well, folks, it's just like any other element. If you are taking vitamins, you might need more vitamin C than vitamin D. So you have to take a supplement. This is your elemental supplement. Your body needs that to feel grounded.
That's a beautiful elemental supplement. I'm so using that. I'm not even kidding. Like, that is on point. You know, we keep talking about crystals. I always put crystals in my bowl with my seashells too. There's always just a few crystals that want to go in there. And I have had people pick, you know, crystals. And I mean, it's just one of those things. I didn't even like practice it. I was like, all right, let's just do this and see what happens. And
do you have, and I meant to ask you this once before, do you have siblings?
I have 2 half-brothers and 2, not by blood, but sisters. I can't even believe I just said that, because I know. I always say yes, I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers. I do.
And that's fine.
It's Michael's fault.
Do any of them not only relate, but do they understand what you're saying, and can they do much the same thing that you're doing when you're talking about any of this? Or has this come around to a point where, yeah, so what do you do? Well, I people a lot, and you don't even talk about it.
Well, my brothers are still young. They're not 18 yet, and they are Jehovah's Witnesses. So I basically worship the devil to them. I mean, not basically. That's how I was taught. And but I just they're wonderful, wonderful boys. I don't see them as much. My sisters, I can't tell you how many lifetimes that I have spent with these two women in my life. And we've known each other our whole lives, and our parents got married, like they were high school sweethearts, then they broke up, and then like I don't know, it's just we've been in each other's family our whole lives. And then when I was a teenager, our parents got married and then had my two brothers. But it's just interesting how, they were just have always been with me. My one sister she's pretty open to it, and I know she has some magnificent abilities. And it's a matter of, working through her own stuff and everything. But I do, I mean, it comes natural. You know what I mean? Like we turn it off, and
it's the thing that I think most people that are spiritually inclined, and I should say more metaphysically inclined, have experienced, is that this is generational. It does pass down generation to generation. If you're gypsy, if you've got gypsy blood in your family, I don't care what people say, you're going to be a gypsy at some point in time in your life. It's going to happen. For people Native American heritage, very much the same thing. People that have Welsh, Dutch, Irish, that are going back to more of a Druidic kind of time, have the same thing. It goes from one spot to the next. And that's what made me curious as to, do they relate or connect now because of a theological background that they have chosen? At this point in time, they may not. It's not to say that sometime they might, the light bulb might click or something. You never know. That's their choice. It's healthy for them. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my daughter, even my one sister, the sister she sees the least and knows the least. Every time since she could talk, she would be like, "Yeah, your sister that used to be my sister?" Every single time. And to this day, she is 6 years old, and we'll see Lydia for 20 minutes and she'll be like, your sister who used to be my sister. And she's like dead serious about it. So, I mean, that can go off on a whole nother thing about soul family and, the packs that you run in. I've met people, I'm hoping maybe you guys can share a story, but I've met people at meditations and stuff, and we've had past lives together or a past life together. And, like I am of Irish descent. A couple weekends ago, I went to this meditation, met this woman, and she's of Irish descent. And of course, I didn't know that at first, but I just felt very connected to this individual. And I ended up sitting right next to her, where she's in my Soul Speaker Sisterhood group. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I know who you are." And I was like, "I know you?" Like, it was such a wonderful, inspiring meeting we had. And I was like, I just keep seeing us together, like being sisters. And, and it was just like the story kind of played out in my head. I love those kind of connections we make with people.
Speaking of connections, Melody is happy because I'm kind of drawing dots and connecting dots as we talk, which is kind of cool because I enjoy doing that. But there's a question here from the chat room from Kimberly. She goes, how does one open themselves up completely to it? And I'm going to ask that first of you, Heather, because Pat and I, totally different kind of thing when we were coming at things. So when you began this, how did you open up to it? One, to understand that it was true, and two, to accept what you were hearing. Two different things.
Yeah. So I was, I had been really, really sick, and like really sick. And I had two little kids, and I had just been praying and praying and praying every single night. Like, I know that there's, whatever. And I would be standing there doing the dishes, and I could feel someone like it felt like they were yelling at me. And it was just like this loud vibration. I don't know. And I just kept ignoring it. I'm like, this is nuts. Oh, you're imagining this. It doesn't make any sense. And I moved downstate with my aunt for a few months with the kids. And it kept happening. Like I would just be doing whatever, folding laundry. And it was like this woman was yelling at me. And I got the sense that it was my Aunt Becky who had passed away. And I was like, it just kept happening so much that I literally started to think that maybe I had lost my mind. And I was like, is this even possible? And I had no one, there was only one person I could think of that I could talk to about this. And I had gotten so fed up and I really didn't want to bother her. And I was just like, I just called her and I'm like, Mindy, I think my dead aunt is yelling at me. Like, is this even possible? And she's like, went through, she was like, honey, yes, it's possible. And she said, this is what you need to do. And she was very intuitive herself, obviously. And she said, she had sensed that there was some healing in the department of my mother that was kind of, I'm assuming in my energetic space, So she said, honey, you need to go after you put the kids to bed, take a really hot shower. We carry a lot of emotions in our neck and our shoulders, especially. She said, you let that water hit you on the neck and on the shoulders, and whatever comes to you, just let it out and say, she gave me this whole thing. I know you weren't who I needed you to be. I love you. I forgive you. And just go through this whole thing. And I bawled my eyes out for at least 10 minutes in the shower. And I was just like, it felt so amazing. And just releasing all of that. And, it had been brought to my awareness. And I think that was the key, is because it needed to be in my awareness. So then she said, when you're done with that, you get out of the shower, you sit down, you breathe, and you ask to connect and with her. And I lit a candle and I even remember asking her, I was like, Mindy, am I going to open my eyes and see a dead person? Because I was scared. I really was. I was like, is she going to look like she's dead? Is she going to look like she is when I had no idea. And she was like, no, she kind of giggled, she's like, no, honey, you're, and at that point I had never seen, anything like that. I sat down and I just remember I put on some music, like some meditative music, and cleared my head, did some deep breathing, and I asked to connect. And, I wrote it in my journal, what she told me, and I can't remember, but she told me that I'm an amazing mother. I'm going to cry thinking about it. And I knew it was her because of the verbiage that she used. She was like, I really like your hair like that. And I had just gotten my hair cut, and it was just like, and it didn't all make sense to me. There was some things in there that just didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But there was no question. Once I had connected and these thoughts and words came into my head, my life was forever changed. So that's how I learned to connect. But I don't know. I'm sure, like you said, you guys.
Pat, I know, is much different in how she learned to connect. Pat? Yeah, you laugh now. Don't do that, damn it.
I was 7 years old. I had just survived my appendix almost rupturing. I had a near death. We went to the family farm that was from Morgantown to Washington, PA. And in those days, there were no main roads. It was all 2-lane, up, down, back and forth. And you probably heard me say this before, but they would put 2 sawhorses and put a door on it and put a sheet on it and call it a table for us kids. And it was an old wooden screen door with the metal spring. And I heard the spring creak, and I heard my Uncle Mims come in, who had passed a few months before. And he does the noggin noogie on my head and called me Buckshot. And I turned around and said, hi, Uncle. And I turned back around and my mom, my adopted mom, goes, that's not funny, and smacks me across the face. Don't do that again. She could see spirit, but she couldn't understand them. And they made fun of her whenever she talked to the family about it. They made fun of her. Wow. And I would see my grandpa Varner. And it was just very interesting. But to me, then it became a normal thing. I thought everybody did it. I didn't know I was a weirdo. And with that came knowing when the school bus was going to be late, knowing when there was going to be a substitute bus driver, just knowing stuff and not having a clue how I knew. But I knew. So, and both my kids have it. And the son just goes, and the daughter goes, yeah, I do that. I know that,
Yeah, you and I were just talking about that earlier, that your son is kind of like, stop. Now, your daughter, if I'm not mistaken, is the feisty one.
Just a bit.
You see, she laughs.
But she's like her father. She looks like me, like I used to, way back when. And my son looks exactly like my husband.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of Roger.
Yeah.
He takes after you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's in the hotel business and he's used to being a boss, and I have to keep going, time, this is Mom.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just interesting. He was down in New Orleans. He was down there when Katrina hit. And when he first went to New Orleans 20 years ago, he would be downstairs. And the city, the whole operation of a Marriott is in the basement, any big hotel. All the restaurant, food preparation, all that stuff is in the basement. And spirit would drive him crazy. He was in housekeeping, and they would come and they would bombard him. And he said, Ma, he'd call me, go, Ma. I go, yeah. Well, tell him leave me alone. Well, honey, I'd love to tell him leave me alone if I had some clue what you. Now I knew what, but I needed him to admit that this was happening to him, because that's Mom, that's her thing. And I'm not going there. And I said, honey, just tell them thank you. You know they're there. You're sorry you're too busy. You don't have time to talk to them. So after about a month, they left him alone. But he used to drive him crazy. He would smell smells and it was just, yeah.
Wow. Ladies, we have hit a little bit past the halfway point. So folks that are watching here in the chat room, I appreciate you chiming in, asking questions. We're going to take just a short break for our sponsors, and so that we can get up and kind of move around for a minute. But we'll be back here in just a few minutes. Divine Awakening's New Age Emporium and Healing Arts Shop. It's the largest locally owned and operated metaphysical retailer in the Sandusky, Ohio Tri-County area. Serving the Firelands region since April of 2014, they're pleased to offer a space that is welcoming, relaxing, and open to everyone. In the Emporium, you will find a variety of unique gifts, special events and services, as well as classes and workshops to soothe your mind, body, and spirit. If you're in the Sandusky, Ohio area, look for Divine Awakenings at 1006 Tiffin Avenue, Sandusky, Ohio. Their phone number is 419-502-9137, and you can find them on Facebook at /Divine Awakenings LLC. We are back from our break. We get to chit-chatting if we're sitting here or if we're not getting up and moving around. And I felt so bad because Heather and Pat were right in the middle of a conversation. I said, all right, ladies, we're done. Time's up. And they're looking at me like, just... Now, Heather, earlier you had talked about, and I want to kind of go more of a round robin about this, because I would like to see, to put it bluntly, yeah, here it comes, Pat. I would like to see the difference of what we feel due to our age. Now, it has, I'm sure, refined or changed over a period of time. But it would be interesting to see how Heather does things, how Pat does things, or how you feel something, or how I would feel something. Now, contrasting to not only male-female, but we're 3 different age brackets, and it would just be interesting. And I'm going to start with Heather, because that's... You started this whole ball of wax this evening, so you're it.
Great.
So how... When you feel things, you talk about vibrations, you talk about feeling energetics and things like that, whether it is spiritual or otherwise. Is it strong? Is it soft? What does that feeling feel like to you?
You just mean like connecting, generally speaking?
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you were to go for a walk on a walk in the woods, because we've all been there, we've all done that. If you head for a walk in the woods and you might connect with something, you might have a connection or a feeling with nature that is around you, or the spirits might come to you because you're there and they're there, or they might come bumbling into your pathway. How does that feel to you?
I mean, it feels like going home. The whole time you were talking, that's the only thing I could think of was home. It just feels like going home. It just feels like first nature. You know what I mean? Like when I'm, especially like you're saying, in the woods connecting, if I'm walking, I mean, I've had so many people, like I take off my shoes to walk in the woods and they're like, why are you taking your shoes off? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, why would I not walk on the forest floor with my bare feet? Like, I just can't fathom like why would I waste my time wearing shoes walking through this? It feels so grounded, or grounding and at home and safe. And even when I kind of still went through, there was a lot of fear for me in the beginning. Because, like I said, I was like, am I going to open my eyes and see a dead person? Like, what's going to happen here? And so for me, it is easier, faster, clearer, and I feel safer. I feel safest when I'm in the forest or near the water. Mm-hmm. To me, is the most in tune, connected that I could possibly get.
Yeah, and to me that strikes me as being very apropos, simply because you come across as more fairy energy, earth magic, earth connection than anything. You're hardwired that way, I would think. Pat?
To me, she's so connected to nature that if you wanted to drive yourself crazy, put yourself on a high rise where you couldn't just go out and smell the air and be barefoot and ground yourself. And, during the break we were talking about, they showed me a past life for Heather where she's always done this. It was either pebbles in the creek or the river, or it was wood that she could see symbols in that nobody else could. And then she had deer antlers. And I mean, she's just always been that way. That's just her. She has to be connected to nature because she doesn't know any other way.
Yeah.
I would agree. How does the energy, I don't want to say impact you, but when you get feelings from psychometry, when you get the feeling from the spirit, when you get the feeling from an entity that's trying to go, hey, I want your attention, how does that feel?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
it used to make me uneasy because I'm like, "Oh, you know, what are you? Why are you here? Why are you bugging me?" And now I just always ask to speak to only the highest and best of the light. I ask my angels and guides to go before me every day and remove all discordance from my path. Um, and I'll get a message, or I'll get a thought or a feeling, and it may stay with me for a week or 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, I hear you. What's this? And then I'll run into someone, or I'll be reading for someone, and it's like, there it is. You know, I think I'm not so surprised anymore. You know how this is, Heather. You know, you get this feeling you don't know what to do with it, or you pick up the show and it's like, oh, okay. And I've learned to not try to decipher or decode what I think this means for you. I simply say, this is what I think. Usually I say, this is what I feel. This is what I hear. Because I used to worry about, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy. And I go, I'm sorry. That's what I'm seeing, hearing, feeling. Maybe it'll make sense later. And just leave it with them. You have to. Because if you start trying to decipher it, we're putting our meaning on their message. And a lot of time when we sit down to read for people, I'm like you, Heather, let me tell you what I need to tell you. And I'll say, now, do you have any questions? And they'll go, no. You answered questions I didn't even know I had. So sometimes they'll want a little more clarification, but that's usually the way. What about you, Michael?
Well, let me ask you, did this change as you got older?
Oh, yeah.
Did it, would you say it evolved?
Oh, very, very definitely. I quit worrying about how can I say this so that I don't upset them, or how can I say this and not look like I just stepped off the planet to come to Earth for a while. You worry, you quit worrying about what people are thinking, or because you can't deny it. You cannot deny it. If Spirit's giving you a message, and I have had Spirit say that to me, did I ask you to decipher it or put it in your words? Put it in the words I'm giving you. And people will tell me, oh my gosh, you got the same inflection, you got the same accent. I guess our facial features sometimes even change a little bit. We'll have their mannerisms,
Mm-hmm.
or we'll do something that they're perfectly comfortable with. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can. Again, they'll say, it's not yours. Just do what I ask you to do, or please show them what I showed you, or whatever. So it's up to them, not me. When I first started reading, I had to take you back a year. So I made sure that I was connecting with you before I could go forward and tell you what I really needed to tell you, because I was scared to death that I was crazy. I had to go back that year or 6 months to make sure I was connecting to you and I wasn't crazy.
No, I wholeheartedly understand that feeling. Because at times it's enough to drive you just up the wall. You don't know. When I was very young, all this started for me when I was 5. So it, to me, was a very natural part of life all from the time I can really remember. You know? So it's, some people it takes near-death experience. Some people, Heather, it's just, it hits and it's an awakening and you are forever changed. I grew up in the Christian church. I have a very strong theological feeling and background now. But that feeling, it's pervasive for me. It's not just this, hi, I'm going to rub up against you for a minute. It's, you feel it.
It's just there. It's just there. Want it or don't want it, don't matter. It's just there.
Well, the reason that I'm asking this is for people that are either in the chat room or maybe listening to the podcast later on. When you begin feeling things, understand a couple of different things. One, that emotion, that feeling, that whatever, did not emanate or start within yourself. So it's not you. Number 2, you're not crazy. You did feel something. After that, it becomes a choice. Is that something that you want to participate in or not? If it's a feeling that absolutely made your skin crawl and you don't ever want to feel that again, then out loud say, this is not what I choose to do right now. Please don't do that.
Right.
And it's something that will go away. But if it is something that you are inclined to begin to work with, remember, it's like any other muscle in your body. You feel something, you react to it. It's just like pushing a door open or closed. The more that you feel, the more that you react, the further you're going to push that door open until you reach a point where that door, you push, the door goes slamming wide open. Here I am. What am I doing now? What are we doing today? And it changes as you grow older. Now, for guys, I have to say, just from my aspect, everything was always very cut and dried. Mm-hmm. You know, there wasn't any. When the time was needed, there would be a mothering emotion or, a very soft kind of thing. But for me, it has always been whack. Here's what's going on. Okay. It's not a jarring sensation, but it's like going to the Louvre and standing still, and they bring a TV up and stick it in your face. And, okay, we're going to change pictures real quick. We're going to go from the Mona Lisa to this one, to Da Vinci, to this one, to this one, to... Damn, really? All right, slow down. It will make you upset after a while if you're not careful in doing what you're doing. But as I've grown older, it has become just like people coming in to sit down and have a cup of coffee in your kitchen. I'm hardly even aware of it anymore. I react, I act, I feel. It's part of life all the way around. I've noticed Pat doing the same thing when I went to fairs with her. Different people would walk by, and you would swear to God. It's why I learned long ago you never judge a person by their looks, ever. There was one lady that walked by Pat, and I, from a physical sight, went, lady, you need help on several levels, truly. Did you even think to do your hair before you left the house? And then it dawned on me, some people were just like that, perfectly fine. And I'm thinking, wait till she walks by Pat. And I watched Pat, and this lady walked by. Lady got down one table, turned right back around, came down, sat down in front of Pat, and had a reading. Because there's a connection. And later I talked with Pat, and she said one of the kindest ladies she'd ever met. This was years ago, so. Now, go ahead, Pat.
Well, I'm going to ask you, I don't know if Heather's gotten this part yet, but you have to set boundaries. Spirit honors no time of day. They honor, no, I'm busy with my child. I got something I got to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. By gosh, you're going to listen to me. I don't care. So I have learned through the years, that's one of the biggest things. And then also, I have played bridge with 3 of the same women for 50 years. Now, there are only 3 of the original 8 left. But when we were playing and we were young and we were in our 30s and stuff, I knew whose husband was messing around. I knew which wife was messing around. I knew what they were fighting about, what the kids were doing. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Because it's hard to sit across from you and say, hi, Heather, how you doing? When I know your husband's yeah. And I know both of you. And so it's like, guys, no. Don't tell me. That's an invasion of privacy. If they ask, okay. But if they don't ask,
I don't want to know.
It drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. I'm going, no.
Yes, it would.
Leave me alone. When I'm with friends, I'm with friends. If they have questions, I'll answer. But I am not. I don't want to know this stuff. Because no matter what we do, it shades our attitude toward that person.
So everybody take note. Pat has been playing bridge for longer than Heather has been alive by almost 20 years.
Well, yeah. Heather, I still like you. You're so darn cute, and here he goes just to bring it. Well, I've been playing bridge longer than you are old, too, there, bucko. Yeah. So.
I'm not too far behind. I'm right in the middle. We had spoken about the way that she conducts her readings with shells and cards and some of the harmonics of things. Well, Pat, I'm going to ask you an odd question. Are there things that you would suggest people not try to use as a divination tool?
I would strongly suggest they not use Ouija boards. There are angel boards. There are all kinds of things. when you do these things, you've got to protect yourself. You've got to protect the area you're in. You only want to talk to the highest and best of the light. You ban negativity, especially kids. And I have friends who have sat down and don't have a clue what they're doing, and they can't understand why stuff in their house is going crazy or why they're having stuff go wrong with them. I don't understand. All of a sudden, blah, 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 blah. Well, what did you do? What's changed? What's different? Well, we were praying with the Ouija board. I said, did you do a prayer of protection before you start? What do you mean? The Lord's Prayer. Anything that puts you in safe space, I'll call. They just, because to me, there are the lower entities, the alcoholics, the orange, I don't want to call them evil, but the people where they're less than honorable. And when you open that door and you don't protect yourself, you're invited, hey, gang, come on in, you know, and you don't have any control.
No, once you cede control like that, it can be difficult to regain. There's no doubt about that. Heather, I'll ask you the same kind of question. What, Pat?
I was just going to say, it's the same thing about bringing home antiques, or it can be jewelry, it can be anything, you know.
We're going to do a show, and we probably will do that next week. We're going to talk about antiques and all the stuff that goes along with it and why people got to be careful. That's going to be a big show. Pat is very passionate about that topic. Honest to God, and that's why she's bringing it up now, because she wants, chomping at the bit to talk about it. But we're going to do that next week. Heather, is there anything from your experience that you would tell people, don't use this as a divination kind of thing?
First I have to say that, Pat, I thought about that topic today. I was like doing something and it came to me that you were supposed to talk about that, about the cleansing of the objects and all that. So anyways, you know, really, I believe strongly in your own intent, and that, like Pat said, you need to, you know, say a prayer, ask your angels, ask your guides, you know, just create that big bubble of light around you, you know, however you visualize it, bring in the light. I believe that if you do it from a place of love and light, then anything can speak to you. You know, that's really how I feel about it. Everything has a vibration, and you do want that vibration to be from love and of a good, you know, of a higher vibration. Mm-hmm. So for some reason I saw like Cheez-Its in my head. I have no idea why. When I was talking about you could use pretty much anything, and I saw Cheez-Its. And but like their vibration's kind of dead, right? I mean, you could, but they're already dead. They're still vibrating. They're still protons, neutrons, and electrons, but it's not full of life. So if you're going to use any kind of divination tool, I would say make sure that it's full of life and full of love, and that, you know, it is of a good vibration, so that you are able to get the messages that you're seeking, get the answers, you know, and feel confident that it's, I feel like a broken record here, but coming from a place of love and light.
No, here's my thought. And again, I ask a lot of questions. I've got my own opinions and my own thoughts behind it. But to help people, again, that are in the chat room, that may be listening on a podcast, if somebody were to walk up to you, either of you, and I'll start with Heather because you're right here on the main focus screen. If somebody were to walk up to you and they've got a brick from an insane asylum that burned to the ground in 1945, would you even pick it up, let alone try to work with it?
I mean, I would feel it from where I'm standing before I even think about picking it up. That's for sure. And I would definitely protect myself. I would think that something like that, you wouldn't even have to pick it up. You wouldn't have to. You know. You just know.
Yeah.
Right. You just know, and you know. I mean, I've been in haunted places before, and I've been like, you just know, like, whatever that is, you stay over there. Even if it's not an entity, even if it's just the energy of the walls. There's this haunted little hole in the wall bar in Saginaw, and it's the energy downstairs is okay, but there is a women's bathroom at the top of the stairs. And they were like, I was there with a group of psychics after a show, and they're like, oh, don't go to the bathroom alone. And I had already been up there once, and I was like, I mean, you're up there for like 30 seconds, and you could just feel the pressure on your chest, and it is awful. And I was like, whatever. And I go up there myself, and oh, that was a horrible mistake because it was just so strong, and it was, yeah, I definitely wasn't going to touch the wall on my way down, you know? So no, probably going to stay away from the brick and, you know, and I, again, with my intent and my prayers, honestly, I would probably, you know, cleanse it with my own techniques and
45 gallons of gasoline in a match. Right.
clear it. Yeah, baby.
Pat, what about
Yes.
you? I'll ask you a slightly different question.
Okay.
Because you have probably been near something similar to this. If somebody has brought you an object from a place that you know has had a lot of spiritual activity, and they tell you, do you even pick it up? Do you just let it sit on the table?
I don't want it in my energy. And what I would ask them why they have this particular thing. And some people will tell you they want it because it came from somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And what I will do is I'll put white light around it, and I will try to seal that energy in. And you can't always cleanse it. You know, if they want it that way, I'm probably not going to be able to do a whole lot with it to cleanse it because they want it that way. And I will say to them, what's happening in your, you know, have you noticed anything different since you brought this home? Or, you know, and try to explain to them what they're bringing into their house, what they're bringing into their family's house, what they're bringing into their life, and what may be the result of it. I have been supposed to go to the Mansfield Present at least 4 times.
There's a lady here in the chat room, Kimberly Kerr. She said, I was in Mansfield Reformatory for 5 minutes and I had to literally run full speed out of there.
I've not been able to go. The first time there was terrible rainstorm, and the bus that was supposed to take us broke down. Second time, we got lost going to where the pickup place was. The third time, I got sick within hours. And I said, okay, this isn't for me. I'm not supposed to go there. And the fourth time someone asked, I said, no, I'm sorry. I have had some experiences that I truly believe it's Spirit's way of protecting me. And they're saying, you don't need to go there.
No,
Right.
you don't. But you and I got to go sometime.
Listen to him.
I would, and
Yeah.
simply for the fact
Can we
that,
take Heather?
pardon?
Can we take Heather? Can we take Heather?
Oh, yeah. I'll pay somebody to babysit her kids for 48 hours. We'll take her. We'll kidnap her. How's that? We will kidnap you.
I'm totally okay with being kidnapped.
Well, the thing being, for me, you know, all of us know predominantly what we feel when we encounter spiritual beings, ghost presence. All. I'm curious, when we walk into a room, what does Pat feel? What does Heather feel? What do I feel? Does it make Pat go spastic and she just wants to spit nails? Does it give Heather the heebie-jeebies, like, you know? And I'd probably just want to sit on the ground and play ball or something. I don't know. But to me, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, I think I could go there with you and with Heather.
Yeah.
But I think that when it was this group of 40, 50, 60 people going, and they're going, some of them with the ha attitude, and some of them with, I can't wait to see. I'm back to Heather's intent.
Intent, yeah.
So if we go with an open mind, and I usually, when I go someplace like that, I will say, is there anyone here who wants to go to the light that hasn't yet? In my mind, I don't say it out loud. when I broke both my ankles 10 years ago, June, I spent a month in Edwin Shaw, which used to be a sanitarium for TB patients, and then it was a mental institution. And they just tore that down last summer before last. And one of my friend's husbands lives very near, so he walked over when they were tearing it down, and you can see the mist coming up. It's a sunny day, people, and there's mist, and there's orbs, and there's this, and there's that. And he thought it was a bunch of hooey. She said, "Oh, I wish I could go over there and take pictures when they're doing this." He did. And he went, "Uh-oh." So it's just, and when I was in there, there was a gentleman, the third floor you couldn't even get to anymore. They blocked off because the activity was so great. And this guy's up there in a wooden chair that creaks, metal file cabinets, heavy footsteps, and nurses would not come in my room during the night because it made the hair on their arms raise. And I told him if he didn't, and I'm in pain, I'm on morphine. I told him if he didn't knock it off, I send him to the light, and he told me I couldn't do that. And I said, "You want to see? Turn around and look behind you." I never had any trouble with him during the night anymore. This was like the third day there. The nurses that wouldn't come in at night that had gone to day shift, now they're coming in my room in the daytime and they're getting the same reaction. But again, I'm like, Heather, it's your intent. If you go with fear, you're going to be a light bulb, a flashing light to them, and they're all going to come.
Like attracts like.
Erica. But if you go, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I would go simply because, one, because it is a very different experience. Because we are gifted, because we do the things that we do, it's walking into a very different world. Yes, it's reality. Yes, it's a stone building. Yes, it has these energetics. But everything, to me, is massively, massively different. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the feelings, the emotions, everything, it would change. Kim Shannon on here goes, she said, like Gettysburg Battlefield. Now, I would love to go there, but I know that the energetics are, again, going to be very different. The people at Mansfield Reformatory didn't want to be there, had issues, were possibly going insane or otherwise. People at Gettysburg were there for only one reason: kill somebody. And that's massively different in just baseline energetics of what you're going to feel. Gettysburg would by far scare the shit out of me more than Mansfield would. You know what I mean? Because those guys, if they died being shot by somebody else, they're still going to be upset. And if you can talk to them, guess who they're going to come at you? Like moth to flame. It's true. It's really true.
They've been waiting for 3.5 weeks for you to show up. They've
been waiting for a century for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys get that where you get increased activity at certain, like I've been this past weekend, because like you said, Pat, I have to set boundaries because we can't do this right now, right here. Not a good time. That's not life or death. You gotta wait. The other night, I was just sitting in the living room. Kids must have been sleeping. Maybe I was alone. That never happens. But anyways, it was like all of a sudden, the living room was full of rock stars. It was the coolest feeling. I'm like, I can't sing. I can't carry a tune. I'm not sure why you guys are here, but this is really freaking awesome. It's just so bizarre. But have you guys had something like unknowingly come into your house that had like really crummy energy? Because I had this medallion that was my ex's, and it must have been put away in this trunk for years and years and years. And it was from overseas, and it had been, his mom got it when she was in the Navy. And the writing on it looks like it could be Egyptian or something. And this medallion, I don't think I'd ever touched it before. And then we moved into our new house. We had just bought it. And he ended up bringing it in the house and put it in our bedroom. And I feel like it was all divinely inspired ultimately, but I mean, this creature, who whatever is connected to this, he would like try to scare me. He would be outside the window because I made him put it in the garage. I'm like, you get rid of this thing now, but you get it out of my house, because it was like, it was so dark and just felt like primal evil. I don't know. That is the only thing I've ever felt that kind of energy on. And it was so weird. And it was like, when I ended up moving out with the kids, we separated, and I would come over there, and because we had just had a baby together, whatever. So I'd be over there and he'd be gone. And this thing, it was like he knew when I was around, and he would try to scare me. And I would be like, look, you've got to knock this off. Like, yeah, you look freaky, but you know what? I'm not afraid of you. Like, just get on with yourself, you know? And I'd have to smudge. I mean, I would walk in the door with the sage in my hand. Like, I'm not going in here until I sage this first, because it got so dark, and it's like it almost just encompassed the whole property. And my guides told me that it needed to be buried 6 feet under the ground, and he won't do that. But the house has literally been in this blanket of darkness ever since. Not even, because like Pat said, sometimes you can't, like, you could clear it out, but it's going to come back, because I mean, he maybe not super consciously, but he wanted that darkness there. He was in it, you know what I mean? And so we didn't want it to go. So he wasn't going to actually leave for good.
I asked if it's cursed, and I got no, because
Okay.
that's another thing, talking about items that have been cursed, and it depends, you know, if you believe in it, yes, they're there. But like Miriam Wykowski, the ghost whisperer, took a curse removal class with her, and she brought in different items that had been cursed, and we held them, and you could feel it, and we all had to write down what we felt about it. And you can remove it, and I don't know where my papers are on that, but I feel like that's an attachment to that, and he doesn't want to get rid of it because it reminds him of his mom. But it's looking for people that it can wreak havoc with in one way or another. And he unfortunately does not realize that. So what you can do is, in your mind's eye, think about that and encircle it in white, seal it, so that energy is sealed within that white light circle.
Good idea. It has been literally wreaking havoc, I mean, on that property since I think he opened up the trunk that it was in, and he opened up the little box, and it was like, ooh, it's time to play.
Remember, it's Pandora's box. Do you remember Pandora's box?
Yeah, maybe something like that. That's kind of weird.
It is. It's similar to that. It's that energy being sealed in there, and as it was sealed in there, it probably grew. And you know, I don't know if it necessarily got stronger, but you know, it's like, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out. And then when it gets out, woohoo, here we go.
Right. I always felt silly talking to people about that, because I was like, I don't understand, like, you know, just interesting.
Michael, isn't it fun to find out you're not crazy? There are other people just as crazy as you are.
See,
So fun.
These are the things that, and it's the perfect thing that you say, so that people in the chat room, people on the podcast, people that watch, listen, you're not crazy. You know, now, don't try to pretend to do things, but you're not crazy. These are things that people just don't talk about anymore. All right, Pat, we're going to start to wrap up the show, because we're actually starting to run out of time, believe it or not.
Okay.
In a couple of minutes' time, do you have anything that you might want to say about tonight's topic? Things that Heather has done, or things that we've covered?
I just love Heather. I love her freshness to it. And I know you still struggle with, why am I doing this? This is not, you know, like you, I suppose you get up one morning and say, I think I'm going to read seashells today, you know, or hearing your aunt and not knowing. And a lot of people do have to have that illness, that whatever, before they realize that, because they do that to get your attention. If I can get you to stop, and I can slow you down so much you can't ignore me anymore, guess what I'm going to do? But it's fun. It's fun. It has to be fun. If it becomes a burden, then it's time to say, hey guys, I'll talk to you later.
Heather? What do you got to wrap it up tonight?
Okay, I have this shell because obviously.
I love that.
So it's such a beautiful blue color. And what it told me before I went and picked it up this evening, because they showed me the shell in my head while I was at work still. It's just telling me to travel, to like spread your tentacles. I guess it just said it like that because it's from the sea, but I was like, really? Spread your tentacles? But
Your arms.
spread yourself out in a not in a I'm spreading myself too thin kind of a way, but in like connected, full of life, it's time to spread your wings kind of a way. And the blue to me very much speaks to, you know, your throat chakra, speaking your truth, standing out, and just living and being who you really are, which has been a message that I've been getting a lot lately. So that's really
Yeah, I've been pushing her.
what I want to
as
say.
She's been going along.
Everything is a vibration, and like Pat said, if you just slow down a little bit, just a little bit, breathe and connect, and you will be amazed at how much you can feel. One of my favorite feelings even still is when I get the goosebumps all over my body, when when the spirit will come in really strong, or there's a lot of activity, all my hairs stand up, or when people speak their truth, and whatever they're saying it from their heart, and it's just like, it's the most amazing feeling. Your body really knows, and all your little nerve cells in your whole body react to truth. So your body is its own truth detector. And it's just a beautiful thing when you can feel that.
See, that's the one thing, and I would wholeheartedly agree with it. Everybody is going to feel something slightly different. None of us will ever feel the same thing in the same way, but yet we can all relate to one another based upon what we did feel, or to the total opposite, what we did not feel. That's just as important in doing some things. You felt this warm and fuzzy feeling, but you didn't feel a negative, I want to stab you feeling. It's important to realize what you do feel and what you don't, what's here and what's missing. When people go walking into older homes and things like that, you're going to feel things. You know, you get into old buildings. You go to an old library sometime when there's very few people in the library, and just grab a chair and sit down and watch. Because you're going to be going, what was that? What was that?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Because there is so much energetic from so many people over so long a period of time that it's not even funny. So it's the harmonics of everything. I was fascinated by how you are doing seashell readings. I truly am, because I'm a guy. I'm a very practical being. Guys are. You know,
Yes.
you give us a
Black
problem.
and white. It's just like you said, black and white. And I had a light bulb go off. I was like,
See,
yeah, it is
ladies,
black and white for them. There is no black and white for us. It's all a scale of.
if you give me time as a man, I can sit and process gray. But when I look at something, is it an issue or not? If it's an issue, by God, address it, fix it, move on. You know, car's got a flat tire. Fine, change the flat tire. Keep going. Don't sit there and go, well, what did I run over? Gee, I wonder if that's going to happen again. No. Fix the damn tire. Keep driving.
That is like the definition of the difference between men and women. Too.
It is. It is, because...
What did I get? Why is the tire flat? He's already changed it.
Yeah.
Who cares? Change the tire. Let's go.
That's it. If you and I were riding in a car, Heather, you would go, well, why is the tire flat? And I would be over here going, I don't give a damn why the tire's flat. We're going to put a tire on and we're going to go. So it's a massive difference to how we relate and correspond and feel things. It will be different for men and women, hands down, all the time.
It's a healthy reminder.
And young and
I'll
old.
accept the reminder part. I'm not so sure about healthy sometimes. Yes.
Oh, it's good for me.
Well, and
Oh, for you it
it's
might
your
be, yes.
experience.
What?
It's your experiences that you've had up until this point, how you react to it also.
Yeah.
You know?
The problem isn't the problem. The problem is how you view the problem.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's so true. And for people that have never watched Pirates of the Caribbean, that's Johnny Depp in Captain Jack Sparrow. He goes, the problem is not the problem. The problem is how you look at the problem, or something very similar to that. I'm like, yep, it's true. All right. For the people that are in the chat room, I seriously love having you folks in here. Because I read through this, I do catch up, I try to take notes. Shelley, my wife, is moderating, and if I don't catch something, she will, and she'll definitely let me know. So I'm glad that everybody was here this evening. For the people that are listening on a podcast, go back and check out our previous shows. We are on Facebook at /Terra Turas. No, just on Facebook, it's /Terra Turas. If you want to check out our website, we are at www.terraturas.com. There is a way that you can connect to each of us. There's also the podcast listing as well as previous episodes that we have. And we're going to be back here again next week, next Wednesday evening. Now, next week we actually can't do the show, Pat, because next week we have Tammy Monzo coming back to join us.
Yay!
So we will have guest Tammy Monzo. We're going to talk about Mercury retrograde because it's getting ready to kick in. And this is going to be a main shift for a lot of people.
I got my taxes done. I listened to her. She said, get your taxes done before Mercury goes into retrograde. I was like, boom, on it.
Yep. So next week we will be joined by Tammy. She is our guest astrologer. We'll have more information as we go along with her. So everybody that is here, be sure to check us out next week while Tammy's here. For people on podcast, Tammy is going to be doing a show much like, and this is one of the other things that I actually almost forgot about. Lord, I got too many things in my brain. If people have been watching our Facebook page or getting ready to listen, our first special content, little snippets of pieces of things, was done by Heather. And she had recorded her set a year ago. She's going to follow up and do another recording. But every week we're going to try to add a little bit more content. Before our show this evening, I sat down and Pat and I recorded her show, and it is about the Chinese New Year or Chinese astrology. What was your topic, Pat?
The Year of the Pig.
The Year of the
number
Pig.
1 year in Chinese astrology.
That's what it was.
Ooh.
Yeah, now see, I sat and listened to the whole thing, and I'm just like, wow. There were times I almost forgot to do things that I needed to do on my end. On my end, I'm going to try to take 20 minutes, half an hour, and just talk about things that I sit in, musings of the mind, because there are things that I think about that may be important, might not be, but at least it might be a topic of conversation somewhere along the way. And again, the reason that I brought that up is because Tammy is going to do a show, a half-hour show. She's going to start doing about actually beginning astrology. And it'll probably be like an 8 or 12-part series that she's going to do. But she is granting us the capability to go ahead and post it on Terra Turas and also to post it on our podcast. So I was really excited when we could work that out with her. That was just amazing. So we have an absolutely packed schedule coming up for Terra Turas. For all the people that are watching or listening, I seriously love having you folks here. Would love to see everybody back again next week. We will have Tammy Monzo as our guest astrologer. Until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.